家好，欢迎大家收听喜马拉雅安住在家节目。同时，我也是韦博新浪新安住在家的版主。那今天很荣幸，也很感恩有这个机会，在美国加州欧海 Center for the Work 拜伦凯蒂功课中心访问拜伦凯蒂他自己，还有他的先生 Stephen Mitchell 史蒂夫 Mitchell。那现在呢，我就把镜头转向他们。Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Hi, Stephen.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your precious moments with the Chinese-speaking people all over the world.
Oh, it's my privilege. I'm so happy for this opportunity and to share this with all Chinese-speaking people all over the world. You know, each of us is in our own way and cultures. We're all over the world, so I love that this reaches as many people as possible, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share with you the work. And especially to have my husband, Stephen Mitchell, here with me. That's fairly rare. Usually we're doing our own separate interviews.
Thank you. Katie and Stephen, I wanted to ask you sort of the questions I heard through the Chinese people that we work with. One question would be, what would be your suggestions for people that don't quite understand English and that they purely rely on you, watching you on YouTube, and there are only a few that has been translated into Chinese, and also reading the translated version of Loving What Is? What would be your suggestions for them in terms of doing the work and taking this as a daily practice?
Mm-hmm. So first, I would suggest to people and highly recommend to people that they go to thework.com and contact all of the Chinese-speaking facilitators for the work. They have gone through an extensive program, several years actually, to be able to have the privilege to have their profile on that site. And that would be the first step. And then I would invite them, when they're actually doing the work, to slow down. The work is meditation. For example, if I had the thought, this rain in Ojai, California is never going to stop, then I would question that. That's not a very great example. But for example, if I had the thought there's something wrong with me, and I might just question that by getting very, very still and just asking myself, there's something wrong with me. Is it true? So just to meditate on that thought. And we would call those one belief at a time opportunities to work with. But actually, I suggest people go to thework.com and find the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet in Chinese and the little book in Chinese. And I love that that some facilitators are here that facilitate the work in Chinese, and that everyone gets to meet them as well.
他说他很高兴说我们今天现场也有其他会说中文的写导师，可以借这个机会跟大家见面。
Yeah.
Christina, come here.
Oh, Christina.
Hello.
这位是 Christina， 那我们两个是一起在这边学习的。
So, Christina, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
So what has the work meant to you?
The work means to me. In Chinese? Okay. 功课对我来讲是让我解除我的烦恼，还有就是一个非常好的工具。那当我心里有困顿的时候，那我不用求其他的人，我可以把我的困顿就写在那个我们所谓的功课作业单上，然后呢用4句话来 来针对每一个作业单上的每一个细节，每一个我们所谓的就是作业单每一个的concept， 那中文会讲说是对作业单每一个的问题，那我们会用4句话来问，然后在这时候你会让你有机会，会让你的心去就宣泄在整个在纸上，在这个问题上，然后4句话就像打坐一样，就是禅，我们所谓的禅 Zen meditation， 然后你静坐，来静静的审视说，当我没有这个想法的时候，你是怎么样的一个人，你是怎么样一个状态？然后呢，在一个反转，我们所谓的 turn around 反转的话，就让你有机会来看看用不同的角度来看看，来试探看看说，用不同的角度来看看你这个想法，是不是有一些可能性？那我就简述的讲到这里，谢谢。
You know, a wonderful concept to bring to people's mind too is, I can't do this work, or the work is too difficult for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good one to start with for some people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
I'm going to say the work is a way to identify and question the thoughts that cause all the suffering in our lives. A way to identify it and then to question the thoughts that are causing all the suffering in our lives. That leaves us the opportunity to take back our own mind, where we don't have to believe other people. We have our own reference, which is all we really think we're holding anyway. Would you say that differently, sweetheart?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. The mind loves to, we love to compare ourselves to other people. And every time we compare, we come out as a higher ego or a lower ego. So one is way too high and painful. The other is depression and heartache. So when we begin to identify and question what we believe about life, we begin to balance right in the center. And it doesn't matter if we're rich or poor or talented or not talented to our own minds. We come back out with a balance. And our stress level and our level of suffering can really just diminish. And we don't need a teacher for this, just ourselves.
Thank you. Now, for people that wish to come to the 9-day school, but they don't have the language proficiency, what would be your advice to them?
To get together with other people in the school that speak only Chinese, or Chinese as a first language and English as a second language. But find a translator, and all of you together find a translator and come to school with that translator. And also, if you are a translator out there, you can contact me at byronkatie.com. And let me know, and then everyone that wants to attend the School for the Work that speaks Chinese only, or Chinese and whatever language, we'll have a translator here for you. So any of you that have that kind of talent, it would be a great contribution to those others that need a translator.
Thank you. Another question, I heard you say, you always say that the work stopped working when you stop answering questions.
Yes.
Can you elaborate that, and how does that look in the process of doing the work?
Well, if I'm, for example, I say, I think there's something wrong with me, and I ask myself, is it true? That's the first question. There are only 4. and I ask myself, is it true there's something wrong with me? Then I need to get very still and listen and with my eyes closed and just see what arises that shows me something very authentic, that feels right and like balance inside of me. Now, that is the way of peace. That's inquiry. The other way, I ask myself, there's something wrong with me. Is it true? And I close my eyes and I think, well, I already know the answer to that. It's yes, there's something wrong with me, of course. Well, that's not inquiry. That is self-talk. It's the opposite of listening. So I already think there's something wrong with me. So is it true? Yes, that's why I'm writing it down. Now, that's just what I'm believing. Maybe if I get very still, I'll be shown something else. That's inquiry. And then how do I react when I believe the thought there's something wrong with me? So now I get very still again. And my head wants to say, well, I suffer, it hurts. And so now I'm not doing inquiry. Inquiry is listening. So how do I react when I believe the thought there's something wrong with me? I'm going to get very still. I'm going to close my eyes. How do I react? What happens when I believe the thought? So I'm going to see a situation where I was believing that. And I'm going to witness in my mind's eyes the images of me in that situation, how it felt, how deeply those feelings ran, what I said and what I did, no matter how ashamed I may feel. This work is personal. So I'm witnessing. I'm not answering. I'm witnessing how I reacted. I'm being shown how I reacted when I believed the thought that there's something wrong with me. And you never know what you're going to see there, and it can be very, very humbling. And then the fourth and last question I meditate on, in that situation, who or what am I without the thought there's something wrong with me? And as I witness that, I see I'm being shown those same images of me in that situation, but if I drop my story and I just witness that, I experience, as I witnessed that just now, great compassion. And a kindness for myself I never thought possible. A kind of compassion for one's self and the confusion that believing the thought brings to our life experience. Yeah. And then I turn the thought around. We've done 4 questions. I turn the thought around. There's something wrong with me. What is the opposite of that? There's something right with me. So now I contemplate that with my eyes closed, and I look at that situation. There's something right with me. And then as I sit quietly in that, anchored in that situation, witnessing, then I begin to see something right with me. The first thing I just saw is how innocent I am. And how I'm doing the work now, waking up to the cause of my suffering then. And I continue to meditate on there's something, that opposite, there's something right with me. And I just sit in that. And you're translating a mind at home with itself for your friends. And I thought it might be appropriate for Stephen just to say a little about what that process is and why reading it slowly and meditating on what you say of the book slowly is a very powerful experience.
Yeah, 那个凯蒂说，因为凯蒂知道说，我现在有在喜马拉雅上跟大家介绍这本书，那我们要请 Stephen 来跟我们分享一下他写这本书的一些过程，并且就说怎么样慢慢念这本书才会有最大的受益。Stephen.
This new book is organized around the Diamond Sutra. There's a chapter, a short chapter, and then Katie comments and illuminates that chapter as we go along. The reason I chose the Diamond Sutra as a place for Katie to comment on is that it's one of the most profound ancient texts that we have. It's profound, but it's difficult, and I wanted to create a version that would be accessible to everybody, to a modern audience. And it's interesting for a Chinese audience in particular because the Diamond Sutra has great importance in the history of Chinese spiritual practice. It was the most important text in the tradition of Chan Buddhism. And that was partly because there's an old story about one of the great Chan masters called Hui Neng. He was the sixth patriarch of Chan Buddhism. And the story goes this way. When he was a very young man, he was illiterate. He did not know how to read, and he was a woodcutter. So one day, as he was delivering wood at a shop in town, there was a monk sitting in front of the store that he was delivering wood at, and the monk was chanting the Diamond Sutra. And as the monk chanted one verse from the Diamond Sutra, the verse said, "Develop a mind that abides nowhere." In other words, develop a mind that is not attached to any thought that it thinks. So as soon as he heard this verse, his mind had a major opening experience, and he attained what the Buddhists call enlightenment or awakening. So this is an amazing thing. One short sentence caused this young man's mind to open up, and the joy that he felt, the peace of heart that he felt was beyond description. So the truths that the Diamond Sutra provides are very practical. They can change our lives. But they're difficult for some people, and this is why I asked Katie to make it clear and simple, and this is, to my mind, this is what the book does. Now, she has never studied Buddhism, never read anything about Buddhism, but the experience that the work allowed her to enter, the depth of experience, is very similar to what the old masters of Buddhism and the Buddha himself experienced. So that's why it's so helpful.
Thank you.
And in my experience, I didn't have words like enlightenment or any term that would come with a spiritual practice. My life just felt like suffering. And then in a moment, it's not that I heard something that we would call like the Diamond Sutra. I just saw how all suffering was created, and my life shifted from suffering to free. And in that freedom, the absence of pain, a very beautiful life. I was transformed. I was just flipped upside down, this mind, and in that, my entire life. And if it weren't for Stephen and this book would never be accomplished. And I love that you're passing on this beautiful combination of literature that we hope serves people in a way that maybe no other book could. Yeah.
So the last question, I know people, all the Chinese-speaking people, especially those in Asia, they are wondering, will you ever consider coming to Asia and hold the 90 school or other events?
We, at thework.com, there's a place where people can invite me, and I look at each of those and I consider them, and if there are translators, that nothing's impossible, and these beautiful people that you yourself are aware of that move the work would staff the school and be there to support it. All things possible.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen.